our Daring Faith series. I don't know what you think of when you hear that word faith. I don't know what it means to you. I don't know what your experience of faith is, but I'm sure it conjures up all sorts of feelings and emotions. Faith can be looked at and explored from many different angles and facets, just like a diamond. There are many facets to it, many sides to faith, but ultimately, faith is seeing things from God's point of view. It's seeing things through His eyes and from His perspective. Paul prays this big prayer in Ephesians chapter 1 verse 8 when he says, I pray that your eyes will be opened. He's saying that your spiritual eyes, that's his prayer, that your spiritual eyes will be opened, that ultimately faith would be awakened within you. He goes on and says in that same verse, so that we would see the hope that God has set before us. It's that sense that God has something bigger, that we're part of a bigger journey and a bigger picture of what God's doing. But we need faith to enter into that journey. And it's beginning to see things, to see our worldview and our future according to how God sees it. That's faith. That's what faith looks like. And over the next 6 weeks, we're going to take some time out to explore faith. What does daring faith look like? The opposite of faith is fear. And fear can do some really strange things to us. There's a phenomenal story in the Old Testament where a large group of people, they get away from Egypt where they're in slavery, and Moses is their kind of triumphant leader, and he leads them out of Egypt, and it's kind of like this big triumphant moment. But actually what happens is a really sad story, because they end up walking around a wilderness for 40 years. Imagine 40 years not doing anything, but just walking around a desert place, a wilderness, but not accomplishing anything. You see, they could have accomplished something, but they chose to walk with fear instead of faith. God had promised them a land to walk into. He had said, there it is for you, go and inherit this place. In fact, Moses, he even sent 12 of his best men to go and explore the land. 10 of them came back and said, do you know what? We're like grasshoppers. We are tiny in the eyes of those people. There is no way that we can inherit that land, that we can conquer that place. 2 men, Joshua and Caleb, they came back full of faith and said, come on, let's do it. We're up for this. We can take that land that God has promised us. But the people of Israel chose to believe the 10. It's funny, isn't it, that we choose to go with the majority, the loud voice, the voice that can be the biggest voice and the loudest voice, but it doesn't always mean that it's the right way. And because they listened to those 10 spies, they ended up walking this wilderness for 40 years. Faith and fear are opposites. You see, fear discourages us. Fear makes our problems seem really, really big. But faith shrinks problems. You see, God is a big God. And because God is a big God, it means our problems can be small problems. If we have a small perspective of God, guess what? Our problems can get really, really big. But when we begin to see things through God's eyes and from His perspective, boy, it can change everything. It can change our worldview, our perspective, how we see the challenges that we walk through in life, all because we've opened our eyes, our spiritual eyes, to see things as God sees them. Faith not only shrinks problems, but faith contains power. There's a story in Matthew where Jesus goes back to his hometown, and it says that Jesus didn't perform any mighty works, miracles of power, because of their lack of faith. There is a direct link between power and faith. That as we grow in our faith and we begin to see things through God's eyes, we receive power to walk through the things that we face every single day. But it's not just our power, it's God's power. His power living within us. That's how God created us. That's how He formed us, with His desire that we operate not on our own battery packs, but with God's Spirit, His power enabling us. But it takes faith. It takes faith. And I wonder, just as we begin to think about what does that word faith mean? What does it mean to have a daring faith? I wonder today for you, how do you see things? Do you see things through your own natural eyes? Or actually do you need to pray that prayer that Paul prayed? That my spiritual eyes would be awakened and that I can begin to see things as God sees them. full of faith, full of hope, but full of his power.